Hey guys, welcome back to another 3D printing video. And today we got an ANYCUBIC combo of a Photon Mono resin printer with a wash and cure station. So in this video we're going to unbox them, print some models with the Photon, and then use the cure and wash to process them. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Let's get started. Alright, so if you've been resin printing, you know what kind of process there is to finish up the model with curing and cleaning and things like that. So I think this larger box here is the printer itself, so we'll start with it. And I think the best way to open these things is from the bottom. So you guys can see it's plastic wrapped and there's a lot of soft foam all around. So on the very top here, we do have a manual. And it's kind of like the basics of, how to get started. So that's one thing about resin printers is they are quite simple to use and not very complicated to figure out. So it looks like we got a box with accessories and there are a few things in there. We'll go through them here in a second. So I'm going to flip this upside down. Then we'll take the bottom part out first. So you guys can see what that looks like. Looks like there's a metal plate here with some venting and there are no feet, looks like. There's just plastic and that's what it sits on. All right, let's flip it over. Now we can pull off the other layers. Let's see, I guess this comes up. Let's pull the hood out also. Lots of foam, so good packing. So inside the hood here we have more accessories, which includes our build plate and also the vat, which is the tub where the resin goes in. That looks like it for this thing. And also our cover, which is in this yellow, and this thing helps prevent UVs from getting in and out of the printing area. So the tub is plastic, the frame of it, but it does feel quite strong and durable. We got nice markings on the inside, you guys maybe can see, and a pour spout here on one of the ends, a really nice one actually. The build plate itself is all metal, aluminum looks like, and it is tapered, which is nice because you're not going to have residual resin just sitting there and doing nothing. And it is kind of like a textured rough finish on it. So hopefully it sticks really well and it feels like it will. So let's see what's in this accessory box. We got the power adapter and it is 12 volts, 4 amps with a reasonably long cord. We get some gloves, which is important to protect yourself. Some filter strains, looks like 5 of them. And these will come in use when we do cleanup and pour the unused resin back into the container. We also get a pretty large spatula that's semi-sharpened. And also another spatula, which is plastic. And the reason you have 2 is this one is for scraping things off of the sheet here, and this won't damage it. While the metal one is for breaking the models loose from the build plate. So we also get a face mask, some Allen wrenches, and an after sales card. And the last thing here is we get a thumb drive, and this is what we're going to use to bring the files in. And there's probably a test file on here and other things like the slicer. Alright, so putting the printer together is quite simple. You only have a few parts, but before we can do anything, we need to raise this arm here, the Z-axis up. That way we can get underneath it. So let's go ahead and grab our power adapter, flip this thing around, and you guys can see our power cord plugs right into here. And on the right side of the printer, we can see we have the power switch here and the USB port next to that. So let's go ahead and power it on. And our main screen is lit up. So let's take off this little plastic protector. Now, you guys probably can't see very well, but I'm just gonna go to Tools and then move Z and just go up. And it is raising. So there is a protective film right here where it's covering the LCD screen itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and peel that off. And so the tub here just slides right underneath here, these 2 brackets on the sides. And then there's 2 little twist knobs here that lock it in. And just like that, that's where the tub goes. And then our build plate slides into here, and this twisty knob bolt locks it in. So this bolt doesn't have to come out all the way, it just is a clamp. It clamps it down and then you can pull it out. But yeah, very simple and pretty straightforward. And that's pretty much everything that has to do with hardware with a resin printer. Pretty much anyone can figure out pretty quick how to use one. But the parts that make resin printing a little more challenging is actually the slicing and then the processing. And this is where the wash and cure comes in. So we're going to start a print here in a second, but before we do, let's go ahead and unbox the wash and cure, and we'll go through the process of starting a print and then processing it. All right, and so here we have the wash and cure 2.0. So yeah, it comes in a similar box, a little bit smaller. Let's open it from the bottom again. All right, so we got very similar packaging. Flip it around. So it looks like we have a box here with some accessories in it. Pull this foam up. So this is the bottom. You guys can see we got a similar design with the same steel plate here on the bottom. All right. So again, looks like we're using a very similar kind of lid. It is shaped a little different than the printer itself. So under here we can see what the wash and cure consists of. And this is going to be my first time using a wash and cure, so I might say a few things that are not completely correct, but I will try to do the best I can here. We do have a nice instruction manual on how to use it, pretty much step by step. So it looks like we get a container here, and I'm guessing this is where you're going to keep your alcohol, because it looks like it does seal tightly. Let's take this foam off here. So yeah, we can see here what the base of the wash and cure looks like. Looks like we have some UV lights here, a gear here that's motorized. So let's check out what's in this container. So there's a box inside, and the box includes the power adapter, which is a 12 volt 3 amps. And looks like there's a whole basket in here. This is where we're going to put our models in, and we also get this shiny reflective, like a mirror sheet, and it looks like it fits right here, so maybe this is where it goes. And there's two sides to it, and there's like a more rose gold look and then a blue, so I'm not sure which side needs to go out. And here's probably the most interesting thing, is this container here has like a little mixing propeller inside, and it's built into it, and you can just spin it up, and it has a couple magnets, looks like, underneath. And I think the magnets, okay, yeah, you can, yeah, they're definitely interacting with the base. So it's magnetic completely between the two parts. So the base uses magnets to spin up the propeller inside the container. Very cool. And I guess our basket just lowers right in there with our model. And what's cool about this is that you can use multiple times the same alcohol, rinsing the parts after you print them. So in this box we do have a few more things. Looks like another bracket for something and a turntable. Okay, so this is probably going to be for the cure. You pull this off and then you put the turntable on here, and it falls right in. Very clever. So after you wash it, you just cure it, and that's the whole process of this thing. And also in the bag we get some Allen wrenches, a bearing, and an after sales card. All right, so let's take a closer look at the Photon here. So we got a really nice yellow cover here, and that's to protect it from UV rays. Let's go ahead and take that off. And it is one piece, very solid. I like the construction. So we can see the build construction on the Z-axis is pretty heavy duty, and everything is metal here. This part here is plastic, but that doesn't really do much. And we do have a linear rail. You guys can see the bearing there. Very nice solid piece of aluminum here. We've got the lead screw going down and the motors inside. And down there we have an optical sensor, and that's for the Z-axis in-stop switch. So the whole bottom base here is metal. Very nice. Metal brackets here. The tub is all plastic, but that should be fine. And our build plate, as we saw earlier, also metal, and nice that it's tapered. To the right of the printer we have the power switch and the USB port. To the right we just have venting. The back is also venting, power cord. And we do have some kind of sensor here, and I think this is for the cover. So this might have something to do if you raise the cover, it might not print, but we'll check that out. And on the front here, we have a nice 2.8 inch touchscreen display with the nice graphics and a Photon Mono logo underneath. And I do like the overall build construction of it. All right, so for the next part, what we need to do is a level of this build platform. And so we're gonna need to remove the tub, pull it out for now, grab the provided Allen wrench, and we're gonna loosen these 4 bolts for the build plate. So once you loosen them, it's going to just kind of move around up and down and side to side. And the reason we want it loose is because we're going to lower our Z-axis down to level the build platform. So I'm going to use this reasonably thick quality control piece of paper here as my leveling base. And so we're going to go into tools, and then we're going to go to move Z-axis, and we're going to click on the home button. I don't know if you guys can see any of that. Maybe now you can, but yeah, there's a home button here, and we're going to click on that, and that's going to lower the Z-axis down. And it's just going to fall right where it needs to go. And so right now this is homed, but since our build plate is loose, it can go up, down, you know, side to side. So what you want is you want it to sit flat. Kind of press it down just a little bit and tighten these 4 bolts on the sides. And the reason you want to put some pressure down on the build plate, not a lot of pressure, just so it's flat, is because you want it to be even when you tighten it up. So yeah, simple as that. Now we have a nice little gap between the screen and the build plate. And the reason you want a little gap is because you have the film here in between, and you want to leave a little room for that plus the first layer. So after you tighten this, then you're going to go back and click set Z to 0, and basically that's just going to put in the memory that this is where the start point is. So if we click on that, it's going to ask us if we want to set it. Yes, enter. And now we are finished with the bed leveling, and yeah, that was not very hard and pretty simple, as you guys saw. So let's go ahead and check the LCD panel here by going into Tools and clicking the detection button here. So this is testing out the top of the screen, make sure it works, the LCD and the UV lights. So we have a few options we can test. Let's just go with what it's got. Click Next, and this is what it's going to draw out, and hopefully you guys can see we have that pattern there. Okay, so that was only for 6 seconds. Let's do 30 seconds, and let's try another pattern here. Click Next. So now it's in the middle, and you guys could maybe see the type of UV lamps that they have in there. And these are actually called matrix parallel, kind of like an optical way of spreading the light. And it has like these little bubble balls spread the UV light evenly. But yeah, it looks like everything is working. The LCD is working and the UV lights are operating. So we do have another one. Let's see what that one looks like out of curiosity. Okay, so that's the whole screen wide open. So yeah. All right, so that looks good. So let's set our tub back in here, and we'll tighten it up. So from here on, we're pretty much ready to do our first print. So let's go ahead and grab our thumb drive that was included. We'll plug it into the side of the printer here, and it does have a little light on it. And we'll see if there's anything on it. So we're gonna click on print, and sure enough, there is a file on there called test. So I guess we're gonna print that one. Now, before you get all excited and start printing, you need to take in consideration the dangers of resin printing, which mostly is fumes and then getting resin on your skin and stuff like that. So make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. Like I'm in my garage right now, and there's plenty of air going through here. Because resin in itself is pretty stinky, but what's even more smellier and stinkier is when we're gonna be processing with the alcohol in the wash and cure. So yeah, just keep in mind that safety's first. Wear the gloves that were included when you're handling resin, and also a mask so you don't breathe in the particles. Now, before you can print anything, you obviously need resin, and most resin printers don't come with resin, so you will have to buy that separately, so don't forget about it. So here we have some ANYCUBIC resin, and it is in translucent green, so this should be quite interesting. And this is just normal resin. You can buy any brand pretty much. It's the 405 nanometer wavelength, so there's nothing too special about using certain resin. Some might be better quality than others, but so we're gonna mix the resin up just a little bit. We don't want to shake it like crazy because we're gonna put a bunch of air bubbles in it, and we don't want that. We just want to lightly mix it without agitating it too much. Now at this point, I normally don't wear my gloves because I'm not coming in contact with resin at all. I'm just gonna pour it in and then, close the bottle. So I don't know if you guys can see, but on the tub we do have some markings here. So if you wanna know, how far down you are. But I'm just gonna go about halfway in the tub. That usually works out pretty good. And check out that translucent green. That looks pretty cool. All right, that should be plenty there. All right, so I wanted to get you guys a little closer so you can see. But yeah, we're just gonna click on the test file here, and then we're gonna click play. And it should start. Okay, so it's not starting because it says that the door is open. And what it's talking about is this cover. So that sensor in the back that we saw earlier is actually a sensor for this cover. So unless you have it covered, it's not gonna do anything. And there it goes. So I guess that could be pretty good if you, don't want anybody to open it while it's printing. All right, so it looks like we've started. I might have put a little too much resin in there, but it's fine because it's not going over the top. Either way, it looks like we've started, and we can see here on the screen, that's our first layer. All right, so it's done with the first layer. Now it's going to the second one. Now the first layers are taking a while because they're usually a lot longer exposures to make sure that the model sticks to the build plate. But yeah, here we have the preview of the layer that we're on, which is 2 out of 1,481. And then the amount of time that it'll take, which is 3 hours and 56 minutes, looks like. And then we have hot buttons. We have cancel, pause, and then more options. Let's click on more options. So here we can adjust the different parameters. The bottom layer, which is 6. Then exposure offs are 0.2. The bottom exposure, so you can see there our first 6 bottom layers are going to be 45 seconds each. And then after that, it's going to be 2 seconds for the rest of the layers. And you can adjust this just by clicking on it and then putting in what you want. So I guess we'll keep this at 2. So yeah, good options here and everything you need to adjust your exposures. All right, so now that it passed the first 6 layers, it's at 24 now. It's boogieing along. It's literally every 2 seconds and it goes up. So it goes down, starts, 1, 2, then goes back up. So yeah, pretty quick. So this is an advantage of a monochrome kind of printer, is that it is very quick. This is so much more better than the older style regular LCD screens that take forever between each layer, 3 to 4 times longer. So not only this is going to give you a much faster printing experience, but also this type of LCD screen lasts much longer than the older style. So one feature that's quite important, I think, that some resin printers don't have, and I don't understand why, and that is the pause button. Now, when you pause a resin printer, what you want it to do is you want it to lift up high enough where you can see if the model has stuck to the bed. And believe it or not, there's some printers out there just don't do nothing. When you pause it, it might raise it just a bit and just leave it there. Or some of them just pause and don't do nothing. Now some of them do go up, and I'm hoping this one would be that one. So let's go ahead and click the pause button and see what happens. All right, so it should be paused. And look at that, it's going up, looks like. All right, and it does give you about 12 to 15 millimeters to see through it. And that's usually enough to see if your model stuck underneath or not. Let's go ahead and pop this lid open real quick. And maybe you guys can see if I can bring enough light in there. But yeah, we can see the stuck model and everything is good. So I'm really happy to see that the Photon Mono here goes up enough where you can see it, because that's quite important when you're starting your first print. You know, after a few layers, or 45 right now, but after about 20, 30 layers, you can pause it and look, make sure, you know, you're stuck to the plate. All right, so it's boogieing along and it's printing. Everything is fine, so I'm just gonna let it print out and we'll see how it turns out, and then we'll use the wash and cure to process it. All right guys, so our test print is finished and it actually took 4 hours and 10 minutes. I'll push OK there. So let's go ahead and try to figure out how to use this wash and cure. So I'm going to take the top off. Now I think the first thing we need to do is wash, obviously. That's why it's called wash and cure. We do have a basket and also our turntable here. So the way it looks like it works is that we're just going to remove the build plate and put it here on the basket is what it looks like, and then set the basket into the container filled up with alcohol about halfway or so, I would say. But we can see here the milliliters and the maximum is all the way up here. So you're definitely going to need quite a bit of alcohol. So I have a smaller bottle of alcohol, but I have a feeling it might not be enough because 1,000 is only here, and it looks like we're going to need at least 2.5 or so to maybe even 3. So keep in mind that you will need quite a bit of alcohol. And the one I got here is 70%, and I think you can use higher percentages obviously, but I'm going to go with this lower percentage just because I don't want to be too harsh on the cleaning. But going back to the basket here, this extra little bracket here actually just sits right on top and it brings it up even higher, and what that does, it gives you more distance between the build plate and the bottom of the basket. So if you got something pretty tall, you might want to add this and then put, you know, the build plate on top of that. So, but then again, you're going to have, you know, more alcohol all the way here to the max. So yeah, keep that in mind. The larger the models, the higher you have to go up with the alcohol. So I do have 2 new 70%, 1,000 millimeters each almost, and I do have an opened 90% or 91 that we're going to add to it to get to that 25. All right, so I'm just gonna pour it in. And by the way, guys, it is a lot of alcohol, but because this container seals, you can keep washing different models up to about 30 to 50 different models until you have to get rid of the whole alcohol. Now, another thing is that you wanna, make sure you're in a very ventilated area because alcohol is pretty smelly. And also, you probably wanna put your gloves on. I haven't put mine on yet. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. I gotta be a good example for you guys out there. And I know some of you would love to roast me on these safety procedures. All right, so here we can see we're 2,000 milliliters, and we probably need to go up to about 2.5. So let's go ahead and put some of this one in here and get us to about 2.5 there. Oh, I guess might as well, let's put the whole thing in there. And there we go. Now we got a lot of alcohol in the container. So you don't want to keep the alcohol open too long because it does evaporate, or at least the good stuff evaporates. So anytime you're not using it or removing the model or putting it back in, I would recommend keeping the lid closed as much as possible. The fumes plus, it's being diluted or weakened as it evaporates. All right, so let's get to our model here. So as we can see, it looks like it was successful. And it looks like some kind of lattice cube, but we'll take a closer look at it after we process it. So yeah, we're just gonna simply set the whole build plate down into the alcohol. And it's gonna sit right on the basket there. Hopefully you guys can see that. So now we're gonna close the lid and take one of my gloves off. So let's hit the power button, which is in the back. And it's gonna light up and we're gonna see a timer here. So here we have a button and a knob that we can scroll. So right now we're on wash. The wash is glowing, and if we click it, it goes to cure. So since we're washing, we need to go to wash, and then we're just gonna put the timer of how long we wanna wash it. So it's a very simple procedure. There's not much to it. So let's say we wanna wash it for 10 minutes, which I don't know if that's too long or not, but let's just go with 5 minutes here. I think that's plenty for this model. It's really thin. Then we're gonna click on the knob, and that's gonna activate it. And you guys can see that that thing on the bottom there spun up. And so all of the alcohol now is twirling in a circle, washing the model. Really good. So, and it's pretty quiet. You can hear it kind of go, ooh, but overall it's not disturbing at all. And we can see our countdown time has started. And at the same time, our build plate is getting cleaned also. Okay, so it's slowing down now, a minute later. And now it's going the other way. So it was twirling clockwise, but now it's going counterclockwise. Well, that's really cool. So since we have resin in this tub here, we need to go ahead and cover it because we don't want any kind of UV rays to get in there and, you know, start messing with it. Now, after it's done cleaning, what we're gonna do is we're gonna let it dry out. And that's quite important. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you don't wanna go straight to curing right after you clean it. Because if the alcohol evaporates too quick, it's gonna deform the model somewhat and leave like a white hazy residue on it. And you don't wanna put it in the sun or anything. You wanna leave it in the shade or just normal, you know, lighted area until all of the alcohol and water evaporate off of it. And then we're gonna do the cure. All right, and there goes our 5 minutes. So it is finished. And it does make a beeping sound, 3 beeps to be exact, and it's done. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off in the back. So I got a little towel here where we can set it down. So let's go ahead and get it out. And I think at this point, we can pretty much get it off the basket. Now, one thing I'm not too sure about is that if we should keep the basket in the alcohol or not. It should be probably resilient, but maybe in the long term, if you're not going to use it for a while, maybe it's smart not to keep the basket in there. And I'm going to leave it in there for now. Close the lid right away because we don't want the fumes and, you know, just escaping. So I'm going to go ahead and try to break it loose here from the build plate. Let's see if we can do it. And sure enough, it came off pretty good. It does appear to be washed pretty well. So let's go ahead and let it rest for a little bit. And all we really want is just for the moisture that's on it to evaporate before we cure it. So let's pop the lid off the printer, put our build plate back in, tighten it up, and we're ready for our next print. Now, if you were done from here, what you would do is you would clean out your tub. And that's not a very hard procedure. You're just gonna open the bottle and then use one of these strain filters, grab the tub and pour it back into the bottle, the rest of the resin that's left over. And then whatever is left, you can technically drop it into the cure and wash with the basket in there, turn it on and let it clean it, and that would be quite easy and quick. Let's go ahead and go to the computer and we'll check out what's on the SD card. All right, so here we are at the computer and I got the USB stick plugged in. Let's go ahead and open it up. So it looks like we have some files in here. We got an English folder, some history bin, and I think these are the 2 models that were included with the printer. And then we got a folder which is Chinese, looks like. So let's go ahead and go to this one. So we got a PDF of the manual here. Basically goes over everything about the printer and then how to use it, level it, things like that. So, and here also how to install the software and what it looks like. So hopefully we won't have too much trouble with that. So the slicing software looks like it's called Photon Workshop, and they got a Windows 64, a Mac version, and then another Windows, maybe 32-bit looks like. Since we're on a Mac, let's go ahead and do the DMG file. All right, so it looks like it's installed. Let's see if we can open it. And there it goes. Close these windows in the background. Let's make this a little bigger. So it appears to be pretty straightforward overall. This is our build plate here, and we can move it around. I think the first thing we need to do is change our printer because I can see here it says Photon S, but we need Mono. Let's see if we can figure out where the settings are. So here we have slice settings, and then the supports. What is this over here? No. Okay, these are all the controls for the model. You guys can't see this, but to the very top of the screen, you'll see configure and then machine type, and you can kind of see it there. It says Photon Mono right above this SE here. And we can see here that it changed to mono right here on the build plate. So now we are on mono settings. All right, so from here on, it should know everything else that we need. All we got to do is just drag in our models. So a good place to get models is here on thingiverse.com. So let's type in Eiffel Tower and see what comes up. And sure enough, here we have one, and it looks pretty good. Let's click on Thing Files here and then download the STL file. And here's our STL file on the desktop. So let's just drag it into the slicer, and there it goes. So now it appears on our build plate. And it looks like it fits just right with this size here. So over here on this side, we have the move. So we can move the Eiffel Tower around anywhere we want on the build plate. And you can move it individually here with these settings. And then you got rotate. We can rotate it around. Also, you can punch it in here with degrees and whatnot else. And then we have size, which we can manipulate the size larger or smaller. And we can see that our maximum is 120 right now, but let's go ahead and fit the maximum. So we'll click this button right here. And this is going to be the largest they can print. And you guys can see that's much larger than it was. So let's just go with that. See how that turns out. This will be a good test for the wash and cure also. But over here to the right, we can see the machine settings. So this is our resolution in pixels. And right here we have the build size volume, which is 82 by 130 by 165. So that's how much the build volume is on this printer. So for the next part, we need to slice the model. And I think we're going to click this right here. This looks like a slice. All right, so it's going to ask us where to save. We're going to say desktop is fine, save. And now it's making the file. And we can see it right here. It says EiffelTower.pwmo, and that's the file name. Looks like it takes a few seconds to slice it. It is a pretty large model. So it says the estimated time is going to take 8 hours and 16 minutes. So we can click preview or just OK. So let's click on preview. And once we do that, we can see here what the layers look like. And we have all our parameters right here. But yeah, we can preview all the layers by scrubbing it here. Or we can also push play and it will go through the layers by itself. But yeah, simple as that, guys. We have our file is ready to go and it's right here already on the desktop. So now all we got to do is just drag it into the USB stick. And it's going to save it. And if we open that, we can see it's right here, the new file that we made for the printer. So yeah, simple as that, we are done. Now, I've never used this slicer before, so there's probably a lot of other things that you can do and manipulate and whatnot else. And here you have the support tab here that, you know, makes support. Looks really familiar to the Cheetu box that I mostly use. So if you use that or any kind of resin printing software, this should be pretty intuitive overall. And you have other options up here like hollowing out the model and making a hole for the drain and things like that. So it looks like everything you would need to do resin printing. All right, so now that we got our Eiffel Tower on the USB stick, let's plug it into the printer, turn it on, and we'll go ahead and start that print. And we can see it show up right there. Start, and there it goes. Make sure that I got this tight enough here. And you guys saw when I picked up the lid, it turns off because that sensor in the back senses the lid. And by the way, there's a little sticker here that says do not remove on the back of the lid. And that's, I think, what that sensor is looking for. Because when we put it back on, it goes back to printing. So I'm not sure why that would be useful, but maybe, you know, I guess so you don't print with the lid off. All right, and there it goes. So it started. Now, while we were slicing the Eiffel Tower, this thing dried out nicely. And we can look at it a little closer here. It's really nice. So it's got like this really nice matte finish on it right now. But it's not cured all the way. And this is where the cure station here is going to finish the job. So let's go ahead and take this whole container off with the alcohol in it. We'll put it to the side for now. Now about this thing here, this is actually a reflective material that is used to reflect the UV lights bouncing around to kind of help cure underneath the model. And the blue side here actually has a film over it. And if we peel it, we can see that we have a mirror finish on this thing. So we're gonna put the rose gold side down with the mirror pointing up. And so what that's going to do is it's going to help kind of bounce around and, you know, bounce underneath and cure the bottom part. So now we just got to install this plate, which clips right over. And then we set the model right on top of the plate. So now we just need to put the cover on it and we're ready to cure. So let's power it on. So we're going to change it to cure and then set the timer. So I'm going to say, let's do it for about 10 minutes and we'll click on the knob. Okay, so it actually senses the lid. After I corrected it, it started. So both of the machines have sensors in it. So if I pick this up, it stops. Look at that. That's pretty cool. That's a nice feature. so you don't get UV light in your eyes and whatnot else. So yeah, so all it does, it just spins the model in the circle and the UV lights treat it. So yeah, as you see guys, when you have all the right tools, it's actually a pretty pleasant experience. And not only that, your models are going to come out beautiful because you're doing the process correctly. A little closer, what it looks like, it's actually pretty cool looking. Almost looks like a futuristic gallery of some sort. So yeah, we're printing over here the Eiffel Tower and everything looks pretty good. We're on layer 20 and this thing should be nice and cured in about 6 minutes and it'll be a completed model. But yeah, this wash and cure machine here is pretty simplistic overall. So we just have a couple buttons there to display. It does say wash and cure 2.0 on the bottom. On the right side, it's pretty clean. On the left side, we got a little vent there and the back. So this is where we're gonna plug in and also our on and off switch. And this sticker here also works the same way as the other printer here with the cap detection. And it looks like we have 12 ultraviolet lights there and they go up pretty high. So you can cure pretty decent sized large prints in there. And these two here go together so well. All right, it's done and it beeps 3 times. Well, let's shut the power off in the back. Open it up and let's see what this thing looks like. So it is a little bit warm, I guess, from the lights, and it feels very dry. Like, it doesn't feel like it's wet or anything. So yeah, very nicely processed, and you guys can see the finish. So it's not a shiny finish at all. It's more of a matte, and it's almost like a silky finish. It's got a nice little shimmer to it. But yeah, on the inside of the box, maybe you guys can make it out, maybe not. It says ANYCUBIC and then Photon that way. So pretty cool. So I would say quite successful here on our first test print with printing it out and then processing it through the wash and cure. So let's see how the Eiffel Tower turns out and then we'll process it the same way. All right, so our Eiffel Tower is finished and it looks like it turned out really good. So it took 8 hours and 35 minutes. So let's go ahead and move it to the wash station. We'll move this. We'll take out the rotating plate. And I think we can leave the reflector down in there. It doesn't really interfere with anything, I don't think. So now we're gonna grab our container of alcohol and just set it on top. And I did take the basket out because I feel like sitting in alcohol is probably not the best idea for this thing. So let's go ahead and open the lid. And we're gonna set the basket in there. And I went ahead and already put this little bracket on top of it here. Okay, so this bracket actually sits on a few tabs inside the container that hold it, so it's even higher. Now it looks like we're not going to have enough alcohol because we're going to have to go all the way to the max to get there. But let's see how this will work out. I'll carefully pull it out. And we're going to go straight in here. Set it in there. Yeah, so we definitely need the full available height here, because it does go all the way down to the bottom. The model does. So it looks like we're gonna have to add, looks like at least another whole bottle of alcohol. So thankfully I did find another bottle. Let's go ahead and add it. And that should get us to where we need to go. All right, perfect. We got right to the max there, literally right on the dot. So yeah guys, keep in mind, you're gonna need quite a bit of alcohol. All right, so let's cover this lid, power the machine on, and we're on wash. Let's go ahead and go to 10 minutes. I think should be plenty for this. Click on the knob and it starts right up. So yeah, you can't really see much because the alcohol kind of got a little cloudy. But yeah, even if I put a light back there, can't really see much. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this because this is so simple compared to what I've done before in the past, which, you know, try to clean it by hand with a brush, and I end up messing up the models also. So I'm pretty excited to see how well this Eiffel Tower is going to come out with this process here. So I'm going to let it go through the time and then we'll pull it out and let it air dry. And maybe doing it 10 minutes is a little bit too long. I just realized that. So I think we did the first model at 5 minutes and this one's 10, so it might be a little bit too much. All right, so it's done. And if you guys hear some background noise, that's some leaf blower that just started blowing. So all right, so let's see how this thing turned out. Well, it looks like the 10 minutes wasn't too long because our railing is still intact, so that's good. So let's go ahead and try to break it loose here, and we're gonna have to be pretty careful. Okay, yeah, it's definitely stuck on there really good. Unfortunately, I might end up breaking this thing, but okay, so we got 1 foot. All right, so it is coming out. Yeah, you want to be careful when you're pulling something off, because it could be quite dangerous, especially with a sharp spatula. But yeah, it looks like everything is good. I'm going to set it over here to the side and let it air dry. So while we're waiting for our Eiffel Tower to dry, let's go ahead and clean the tub. So this would be, you know, you're done printing and you need to clean up. So our build plate's clean, and now we just have to clean the tub. And so what we need to do first is pour the resin back into the container, and you want to use a filter because you don't want to contaminate your good resin. And if you guys remember, we do have a nice little pour spout right here on one of the corners. So we're just going to use a filter, and you're going to have to kind of free hold the filter a little higher, because if you let it down, it's going to go over the neck here. So yeah, and then we're just going to pour it, and it's going to go through the filter into the can. All right, so we do have some left over on the inside here, and it's not a lot, so we can just try to throw it in here and dilute it all, but there is a way to get the small amount in there out another way if you don't want to contaminate the alcohol as much. So we're going to put the tub back in the printer. Let's go ahead and close up the resin here. And we're going to go to Tools, Detection, choose the full screen. Let's do 30 seconds. And then we'll click Next. And now the whole screen is on, and whatever's resin inside is going to cure. Show you guys here. You can kind of see it curing already. We could kind of move it around to spread it a little better if we wanted to. But this is just one way that you can get most of the resin out of the tub. And sure enough, it did freeze in time there. Oh yeah, so now we're going to grab our spatula, that's the plastic one, not so sharp. And I'm just going to peel it right off. And so you guys can see here, this is what we were able to harden. And it's a lot of resin that we don't have to dilute into the alcohol now. All right, so let's see if we can just throw this whole tub in here in the wash station. We're going to take out this little bracket here. We're just going to dunk it in there. Let's see if it fits. Okay, so it actually fits, and it goes to the very top here. So I guess let's run it for, let's say 4 minutes, probably enough. We just need to dilute that resin and it should be good. But yeah, it's pretty cool that the whole tub fits in there and we can wash it, and that makes it really simple. So let's see how good that turned out. All right. Well, I'm pretty impressed so far, guys, because this makes resin printing really easy and fun. Because the most thing that you don't want to be doing is cleaning the resin off of parts and the prints themselves. That's probably the most unfun part about resin printing, and washing cure here does the trick of getting rid of that problem. So yeah, it looks like it washed it perfectly clean. We just need to give it a little wipe, and now we have a clean tub for next time we print. So yeah, that's pretty nice and pretty easy to do cleanup. So let's remove the container, and we'll go ahead and set our model here on top. So let's go ahead and cover it, and we're gonna set it for 15 minutes because I want it to cure really good. Press the knob and it starts. So as our Eiffel Tower is there finishing up, let's go ahead and take a closer look at this cube here. And I'm going to try to get as close as I can, guys. But so yeah, we can see that the quality of the print is very nice. It's probably going to be a little hard to show you guys, but yeah, if you can see that, it's quite impressive. So looking at it with just my eye, I can see that it's great, but I really want to see what the Eiffel Tower here will look like. Okay, so it is a little bit warm, and it seems to be pretty much fully cured. Well, maybe not. I do see a little bit of drops here and there, but in any case, it's pretty close, and we can see how this translucent green here looks like. It's darker in some areas and lighter in others where it's thinner. Or maybe this darker part is just not dried all the way. I'm not sure, but so let's see here if we can attempt to see these layers here up close. So I think that's in focus, but yeah, you guys can see the railing here. That is quite impressive. A lot of times this railing here just melts away, and this thing is not only intact, but it's quite strong also. I can flex it, but it's not breaking off. And right away I can see that all of the braces in the tower are very precise. Now the part I'm interested in is if we go up, you guys can probably see the tower here, and you can't see the layering lines. There's like little steps, so those are there. But the part that I'm really interested in is look how thin they are. I mean, these are ultra thin, and I've never seen them that thin. Now that's really impressive. But if we go up even higher, this part right here I think is the most shocking part, at least to me, is usually by the time the print gets all the way up here, those braces there are usually clogged up with resin and you can't see through them. But on this print here, you can see, guys, how well the braces go through, and that is tiny. I mean, that is ultra tiny. You can see this, my index finger here. So yeah, I think the wash and cure has a lot to do with how that looks. And if we go up even higher here, we can see how thin that is right there. And the details are just amazing. So yeah guys, I'm pretty impressed with how resin printing can be a lot more enjoyable with this kind of process here. So this was my first time using a wash and cure system, and now that I've used it, I don't think I can go back to doing it the way I was. So if you're resin printing right now and you don't have a wash and cure, I would highly recommend looking into one. And ANYCUBIC here, Wash and Cure 2.0 is an excellent value for what you get. And also the Photon Mono, being a monochrome LCD printer, is very quick and precise, as you guys saw in the models. So I feel like the Photon and the wash and cure here together are a great way to get into resin printing if you haven't already. And also these machines here can be good for younger folks because they do have these safety caps that if you pull it off, you know, everything stops. So that's a nice feature there. Anyways guys, I think the machines here speak for themselves. So if you are interested in one of them or both, I'm going to have some links in the description. Check it out. And if you enjoyed this video, then hit that like button. If you want to see more 3D printing videos, I have a pretty long playlist with quite a few in there, and also more 3D printing videos to come, so stay tuned. So as always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.